Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. It's a hot summer day, at least where I'm at. It's May, and it's like 97 degrees out here. So, the topics of the day for the wrestling fans, and this is really going to be a pro wrestling rant. So, for other Mike Messier subscribers, you may want to tune out if you're not into pro wrestling. But here we go. With pro wrestling discussion, a couple of topics are coming up that I see a little bit of a parallel between the two different topics. The first one, Sasha Banks and Naomi, as you've probably heard, walked out on Monday Night Raw. They apparently left the belts, their women's tag team title championship belts, on the desk of John Laurinaitis, who was a talent manager. Stephanie McMahon, by the way, should have put this in the headline. Stephanie McMahon just twittered that she's taking a leave of absence from the WWE to concentrate on her family. So very interesting. And someone quickly retorted that Stephanie, Triple H, and Shane McMahon are all currently, in one degree or another, not doing as many duties as they have traditionally. So those rumors that have been swirling for almost 2 years now of the WWE being up for sale, who knows what's going on, you know? But anyway, back to our story. Sasha and Naomi leave. The WWE kind of throws them under the bus immediately, um, saying that they were scheduled for competition. Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observers come out and said that from what he's been told, and I trust that Alvarez has decent sources, but who knows, that the two women, Sasha and Naomi, tag team women's champions, were supposed to be in a six-woman, six-pack challenge match. The winner to get a title shot at the next pay-per-view against a woman wrestling champion. And apparently, the match was booked for Naomi to pin Sasha to win the thing. So one partner pinning the other. Then Naomi would go on to the next pay-per-view and face and lose to Bianca Belair in a one-on-one match. Meanwhile, Sasha somehow would pick a fight with Ronda Rousey, and Sasha would go on to that pay-per-view and lose to Ronda. So these two ladies, if all these dots connect, basically felt like, I don't want to put emotions into them, but from the reports, they felt like this was a misuse of their talents, disrespect to the women's tag team title. They didn't see it as a cool thing to be featured in one-on-one competition against the respective champions of Raw and SmackDown, that being Ronda Rousey and Bianca Belair. They felt it was an insult to the women's tag team title, to the women's tag team division, to them as champions. And so rather than, go along with the program, so to speak, they decided to leave. So now, of course, Sasha Banks has been through this at least once before that I can remember. I don't recall Naomi having any issues behind the scenes with WWE. There was a situation where Naomi and her husband, I believe that's Jey Uso, if I have that right, I think Jay was actually having issues with alcohol and driving, and Naomi was unfortunately caught in the middle of it. And that was police footage of that's out there somewhere. But as far as I know, Naomi goes, according to Alvarez, Naomi is very popular backstage. Sasha, not so much. Some people are tweetering around the words nuclear heat, saying that Sasha Banks has nuclear heat with Vince McMahon, nuclear heat backstage. And of course, the wrestling fans, which, everyone's got the freedom of expression, but everyone kind of piles on. A lot of people are feeling this way. A lot of people are feeling that way. I believe Road Dogg and some other wrestlers kind of condemned the actions of the two ladies, Sasha and Naomi. Other people said, hey, when Steve Austin walked out because he wouldn't lose to Brock Lesnar 20 years ago, the fans respected that. And why don't they respect this? And, some people even saying, is there a difference because these are African-American ladies or first and foremost women, or perhaps first and foremost non-white competitors, non-white wrestlers? So are they getting more criticism than their white contemporaries in similar situations, such as Toni Storm for just about a month ago, who kind of up and left the WWE. Now, in Toni's situation, she was not a champion of any kind. So, although the loss was a great loss, she was no champion, so no championship was left on a table. And the Austin thing is kind of a different type of story, but I see the point, and here's my feeling, folks. I guess I'm just kind of a guy that usually leans towards the talent, because I heard this story and it prompted me to re-listen to the Jon Moxley interview on the Chris Jericho show, which is about almost 3 years old at this point, but it's on Talk is Jericho. The reason why I wanted to refresh my memory is because of the frustration that Moxley was feeling with dealing with Vince McMahon in particular. I think those feelings are probably what a lot of these wrestlers in WWE go through on a daily basis. And feeling like they have to satisfy this Vince McMahon for what his vision of them are, and or how they should be used. And I think especially in the case of Sasha, I mean, what was it, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'd watch Monday Night Raw, and this is back when Sasha, Bayley, Charlotte, Becky Lynch were all still in NXT, and the fans were literally chanting at Raw live shows, "We want Sasha, we want Sasha." Nobody was chanting, "We want Charlotte." Nobody was chanting even, "We want Becky." They wanted Sasha Banks. And I think Charlotte Flair is great and all that, but she's kind of been positioned to be great. She's been given many title reigns. She's been given many high-profile matches, even at the point where Becky Lynch was at her peak. They still managed to shoehorn Sasha Banks into that WrestleMania first time ever women's main event. So they always kind of look out for Charlotte, and they don't always look out for Sasha. And I think at one point, Sasha and Charlotte were considered 1 and 1A. But I think most fans actually favored Sasha Banks, and she was actually crisper in the ring and had more. I believe Sasha Banks was a tinge better than Charlotte, not taking anything away from Charlotte, but I think Sasha was a tinge better. You could make a point that Charlotte's more athletic, meaning that she's just bigger, and she can do a lot of good stuff with her larger frame. So, I mean, nothing away from Charlotte, but I mean, you can say that whoever you think is the better in-ring competitor, the better in-ring performer, Charlotte or Sasha, who was booked better, you'd have to say Charlotte. Now, hey, maybe that's someone that, maybe it's a what comes first, the chicken or the egg type of thing. Maybe if Sasha has an attitude problem or something, they don't feel like booking her better. Maybe Charlotte's, sweet as cream pie in the backstage area. I don't know. But I can see that element of history with Sasha, seeing Ronda Rousey at the WrestleMania main events with Charlotte, in 2 of the last 3 years, I guess, and seeing, all these things, the Becky Lynch taking off and the Machine sort of getting behind Becky, although not really. And, Becky Lynch takes a year off to have a baby, and she's welcomed back with open arms. When she comes back, it's a title, put her right around her waist. And Sasha's thinking, what the fuck? What about me? I'm the boss. So there you go, folks. So, I mean, in this particular case, if the real thing is, if you watched Dax Harwood of FTR, he tweeted his support for Sasha Banks, and he made a big thing that tag team wrestling in the men's division was not well treated, and that the FTR tag team was always having to do horrible, god-awful things as a wrestling tag team when their time in the WWE. That's FTR I'm talking about. So FTR guy Dax put over Sasha, defended her. And and the funny thing is, are the fans that are criticizing these two ladies, do they just think that they should be good little wrestlers, good little meat puppets, and do whatever the WWE tells them. I mean, it seems to me, if you really think about this, if the issue that we're being presented is the true issue, they didn't like how they were being used. They didn't want to be broken up into singles. They didn't want to turn on each other. They wanted to be legitimate women's tag team champions. You can criticize that. I mean, the one point of view is that, oh, it's fake, ladies. You're just being marks for yourself, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, I mean, don't you want the wrestlers to give a shit? I mean, it sounds to me like these two women gave a flying fuck about these women's tag team titles. And guess what? If they're the champions, why shouldn't they give a fuck? And if there's a championship to be had, why not have it mean something? You know what I mean? I mean, all the goddamn fans wanted these women tag team titles for years. That's all we saw. Whoa, they need women's tag team titles. Then we fucking got them. And where's the support now that the champions want these titles to mean something? So I think the fans who are criticizing these two women need to look at themselves and spit in the mirror, okay, of enlightenment. Now let's talk about this. So I'm on Team Sasha and Team Naomi on this one, believe it or not. Some people have joked that, who's going to drive the Usos home now that Naomi's out of the company. Others have speculated, can Roman Reigns, should he use some of his backstage clout to help these two women? It's all very interesting. Over on the other side, really just the independent world, Ric Flair, it's been tweeted, it's been Instagrammed, it's been whatever the fuck, 83, ad-free shows, that whole deal. CONRAD THOMPSON is teaming up with David Crockett for one night only, bring back the Jim Crockett Promotions banner. The speculation, it's basically Ric Flair's going to wrestle one more match. It's kind of like, okay, a lot of people think that his match with Shawn Michaels was supposed to be his last match. Well, technically that was his last WWE match, but then Flair went over, I think, to Australia and wrestled Hogan a bunch of times. Was it Australia or Europe? Just about a year later, and then went over to TNA and wrestled over there a few times. I don't remember what Flair's last match is, to be honest with you, besides this one. So the speculation is who's going to be his opponent. Do they even know yet? And I say they, it's basically Flair himself, David Crockett, and CONRAD THOMPSON. Here's what I would suggest, and I don't know if it's too late or not, but I would say if Tony Khan is up for lending out the talent, how about an old-fashioned 8-man tag team match, okay? On one side, you've got Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, teaming up with Dustin Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair's greatest rival. Dustin Rhodes also has some experience with Jim Crockett Promotions, very much at the end, like in the late 88. Dustin was there just a little bit. And Sting, one of Ric Flair's greatest rivals that can still go at age 62 or some such thing. So Sting, Dustin Rhodes, and the Rock and Roll Express against Ric Flair, FTR, and Tully Blanchard. And yes, the FTR would have to apologize to Tully Blanchard, get back in his good graces. But Tully, who as you might recall, wrestled in a 6-man tag last year at the Impact tapings. I happen to be there at Daly's place. Tully can still go a little bit. Tully, Flair, and FTR against Sting, Dustin Rhodes, and the Rock and Roll Express. And if Robert Gibson, for whatever reason, is not functionable for this match, I'm not picking on him, but there should be a couple of substitutes in mind just in case. I would actually put maybe as a substitute for both teams, just to have him on standby, George South. Yeah, if you know who that is, the old WTBS Jim Crockett Promotions, carpenter underneath guy, so to speak. Put good old George South as like the backup guy for both teams in case either team, somebody can't make it at the last minute, has an injury. Give George South like the captain's position as a substitute for either team. But I was basically thinking, I thought I heard something about Robert Gibson just not having it anymore, but I could be wrong. So there you go, folks. That's my little predictive nature. I just like to predict things. Of course, they should have been asking me. Give me the goddamn pencil. I'll make you a good wrestling show. But that's it, folks. So for all the fans that are criticizing Ric Flair for doing this match, this is freedom, baby. I mean, freedom takes all forms. I mean, if a guy wants to wrestle a fucking match, who are you to stop him? You know what I mean? So I say go for it, Nate. Walk that aisle one last time, and I think it'll be fantastic. Am I tempted to go to Nashville to see it? I am. I don't think I will, though. The price of gas has just skyrocketed, and I think I will watch it from the comfort of my own home on the pay-per-view. But I wish everyone well with that, and I think it'll be a great show and so forth. So Mike Messier, subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. For those watching at home, the nice episode of An Action on my friend Tom DiNucci's YouTube channel last night. Very exciting episode. We talked about The Manor, a film that I co-starred and helped write, basically. Kevin Nash, Mike Bennett, two wrestlers that you know are in it. I actually had scenes with both gentlemen. I played Ole Baton and Mike Bennett's brother, Sully Erner's in that movie, the singer of Godsmack and so forth. But that's it, folks. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Enjoy the heat.